So I wanted to just raise one point to the against side, that I have kind of a problem with the fact that, you know, you seem, Esther, I believe made the point that Google aspires to embrace it, or to live up to this motto, but I kind of feel like you're conflating aspiration with accomplishment, and I also feel like Jeff, you've kind of made the point that, well, just because Google has done 8 or 9 or 10 or 20 good things, that somehow would eliminate if they had done anything bad. But the question is that they violate the motto, which means that they commit actions that are evil, or acts of evil. The point that you know, the law professor here in the audience raised, of the fact that Google is adhering to legal norms in whatever market they belong to, raises the profound problem for me that Google itself has said that they aspire to be able to predict what we want to do before we know it ourselves. And with the accumulation of so much information from people which is not opted in, what if the government in some other place were to decide that Google needed to share that information with people?
I'm going to stop you there.
Or with the government itself.
And thank you for the question. And there were a few questions there, but Jeff, you had more of a challenge to your view than a question.
On the aspirational point, I think that your standard then is perfection. It is in fact godlike. Because what you're saying is that if you fail at anything beyond this pledge of being evil, you've somehow failed. And I don't think anyone here in reasonable mind would hold any of us or Google or anyone short of God to that. And so I also think that it's important that your other issue is that is this God, Google, omniscient? Does it know everything about us? And can that be tapped by someone else? I think it's a mistake to say, similarly, the opposite of the aspirational question, if that could happen, it ergo is true. If Google could do bad, ergo it is bad, or Google is big and big is often bad, ergo Google is bad, none of that follows.
Okay, and just for our radio audience, I just want to say Jeff Jarvis answering that question. Esther Dyson.
Yeah, just briefly, I want to respond to one thing you said and point out the real danger here is not Google, it's the government. And governments have power which can easily be abused. Google is constrained. It's constrained by law, it's constrained by competition, it's constrained by its users, and it responds to those constraints, and that's one reason it's not evil. But I think the other reason is it doesn't want to be.
Siva, can you be brief on this, because there is a question.
So I actually want to echo what Esther said. And again, just because there are more evil institutions in the world than Google does not mean that our case, that they violated their motto, is not true, right? The fact that the federal government is much more evil does not absolve Google of responsibility of maintaining information that can be easily, secretly gathered, right? If the FBI comes with a national security letter to Google and says, we want to know everything about Randy Picker, Randy Picker will never know that that happens, and no one at Google can talk about the fact that it happens, right? That's the black box we're dealing with. Google is a black box, the federal government is a black box. The interaction of two black boxes is a serious danger. That doesn't mean Google has done anything specifically actively evil, but it certainly has enabled the potential of real evil.
Question all the way in the back.
Hi, Kevin Williamson, National Review, which may explain the slightly Thomistic tenor of this question. But this is really for those who are arguing for the motion. Aren't you arguing that Google is in fact violating a different motto, which would say don't do evil, versus a motto that says don't be evil? Every business makes some sort of compromise. Every business makes a mistake. Everybody who's ever paid $1 in taxes has made a compromise with evil at some point.
That was it's staying theological, and it was a great question. Well, Harry Lewis for
But aren't you arguing against a different motto?
I was waiting for this Clintonian or Clinton-esque moment where the debate turned to the question of what the meaning of be is.
Are you going to take that question? I'm sorry, I was briefly distracted. Thought you were on a roll.
No, I was. I was really done.
I actually think there's something to the question.
The question calls for an assessment of the totality of the company, not picking out individual instances where you don't like what Google does, and we've made cases that there are many of those are falsities. The totality of the company invited this discussion, first of all, by having this motto, and now exposes itself to this kind of discussion. I think it holds up well, given all that.
Well,
Harry
being
Lewis.
evil means being evil in your heart, and they.
well,
Harry Lewis.
Esther, if that's what they meant, they could have said it. They didn't say that. They didn't say. They set the standard for the. They set the standard.
Unlike lawyers, they're brief. Unlike lawyers, they're brief and succinct.
Question down front.